The United States alongside Ukraine put together a 30-day ceasefire deal, and unfortunately for them, Putin was not dumb enough to fall for the trap they tried to lay for him. In recent days, Marco Rubio announced that Ukraine's Zelensky and Trump met in Saudi Arabia to put together a peace deal, or rather, a 30-day ceasefire deal. Putin was not part of that meeting. Just a couple of weeks ago, the UK and France met with Zelensky to also work on a 30-day ceasefire deal. Putin also was not part of that meeting. During that press conference, Marco Rubio actually put the onus on Russia to say if they want to pursue peace, they will accept this deal. But if you actually look at the details, Putin would be a moron to accept this deal, which is why he rejected it. I mean, because the obvious question would be why would any person with any level of common sense accept a ceasefire deal put together by a bunch of countries who don't have your interests at heart while you weren't even in the room, when you have all the power because you're winning the war? It's because they likely made sure you weren't in the room so that they could pull some shenanigans. For example, Putin said, how will these 30 days of a ceasefire be used? To continue forced mobilization in Ukraine? To supply weapons to Ukraine? These are legitimate questions, he said, especially because Ukraine has previously indicated it will continue its mobilization efforts during any ceasefire. I mean, during the conference that the UK, France, and the Ukraine had, Starmer talked about a coalition of the willing. And by coalition of the willing, he meant a coalition of people willing to quote unquote defend Ukraine to guarantee the 30 days of peace. Starmer even goes as far to say that the UK is prepared to back this plan with boots on the ground and planes in the air. So just to be clear, we know this war started because NATO wouldn't mind its business. And that's also why US, UK, France, they wouldn't officially put boots on the ground because they know that that would start a world war. But Starmer is arguing the only way that they would approve and should approve of a 30-day ceasefire is to ramp up military capability and increase NATO military presence in Ukraine. Does that sound like an individual of a country that actually wants to achieve peace in the region? But more to the point, why the fuck would Putin be dumb enough to fall for that shit? I mean, Ukraine and its allies basically admitted almost directly, yeah, we're just going to use the opportunity to ship weapons and military personnel into Ukraine while being unfettered by Russia trying to stop them from doing so because there's an ongoing war. Why would anyone agree to that? Especially when Russia is the one winning the war. I wouldn't concede a goddamn thing if I was in Putin's position. If the United States was serious about achieving peace between Ukraine and Russia, then Trump would put his foot down and let Zelensky know that he is not going to negotiate any further until Zelensky grows up, acts like an adult and the president of a country, and sits in a room with Putin and they come up with a peace deal together. Because otherwise, it just looks like you were pretending that you wanted peace between Russia and Ukraine. Because there's no way in hell you thought that Putin was going to accept this. And for all of our sakes, really, I hope that they start taking these peace talks seriously. And you really got to ask yourself, how many more Ukrainian lives are Zelensky and the NATO West willing to sacrifice for a losing war because they think it might make Putin weaker, even though there's literally zero evidence of that.